Hi, Rita West here with a Ramblings of a Redheaded Lifter. So, a couple days ago, I had posted something about when is enough enough and kind of talking about, you know, uh, making the choice and being responsible for the consequences of those choices about when, you need to kind of like back off the weight. Maybe you got some injuries, whatever. And, uh, and it got some really interesting responses, which I think is super cool. Um, they all tended to be on the same side, though, the side of doing it for as long as you want to do it and not listening to anybody else. And it would have been nice to like maybe get some input from some people on the side of from on the other side of like, hey, you know maybe you should really think about it. But I wanted to come out and say for that, first of all, it has that video, post, whatever, that rambling, was just kind of my thoughts. And that's basically what this is I throw these things together when I'm thinking, something happens and it makes me think about it for the day, and I'm like, you know what, and I'm like rambling in my head. And so instead of just talking to myself about it, I decided to start doing these videos and throw it out there for other people to hear my thoughts on stuff, or maybe start creating some kind of dialogue or thought in other people. And so that was just kind of like off the top of my head. And so I just wanted to come out and say that while that is my opinion for myself, and for other people, it was my opinion to like let other people kind of make their choices, and just that those people needed to be willing to accept the consequences of those choices. I just kind of wanted to throw some things out there in defense of the other side. Uh, because first of all, so what had started that day was just somebody had suggested to me to just watch what I was doing. That powerlifting wasn't my goal at the moment, and I didn't want to be setting myself up to not be able to do the things that I did want to do later on down the road. And that's good advice. I'm not saying that's not good advice. It is good advice, and this person had my best interests in mind and knew of the goals that I had at the time, and was just keeping me on the path to that goal, to what would best be able to get me to that goal at that time. And I just happen to be a type of person who just can't stop from pushing those limits, pushing limits, and going above and beyond. And so I also kind of know more about my goals than maybe what I told this person. That when I talked to this person that's kind of like coaching me in my off season, um, I told him what I wanted to do, right? And then he gives me advice based on that, and it's good advice. But I was just kind of thinking to myself, also knowing a little bit more about my own personality and other things that I want to do, not just that one goal. And so that's kind of where my rambling thoughts came from. And so, but it's kind of a situation that I hear often. I hear other people, have to deal with often. And so I just thought, let's put this out there for people to talk about, right? So basically, another thing that I also say, and even having to do with myself, is that it is a very thin line between badass and just plain stupid. All right. So, there's, I, it doesn't, there's a lot of things that even myself have done or others people do that everybody's like, oh, that's so cool. That person's badass. That person, does this, this, and this. And, there'll always be those people that support the things that you do as being badass, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're 100% badass. That there isn't, up to and above 50% just fucking stupid. and and that's something to keep in mind, because when you are making decisions for yourself, about what you're willing to do, you need to keep in mind something that I can tell you that I know from my experience. And I'm 47 years old. I'm not 60 something and talking to everyone's a youngin, but I'm also not a spring chicken. And so I can tell you that your goals are going to change, and whatever it is that you think is super, super fucking important, it means more than anything right now, is probably going to be different. I'm not talking about your children and shit like that. Of course, those will always remain important. But the things that you want out of life or whatever, um, very likely are going to be different in 5, 10 years down the road. And so, to say at one point of your life that powerlifting is the most important thing and all you want to do is break records and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, that doesn't mean that when you grow up and your kids move out of the house and you have grandchildren, like I do, that sometime that at some point you might not want to slow down, and those things aren't going to be the most important thing. Maybe you're just going to want to like go see your grandkid and be able to get down on the floor to play with your grandchild. Okay, so that's a real thing too. And so when you're thinking about things, but that's kind of why I say, and I'll be the first to, and I say that out of my experience. It takes me about 5 minutes to get down. Oh, let's just say 2 minutes to get down to the floor, 5 minutes to get back up off the floor. And so when I'm gonna get down on the floor to play with my grandson, I'm gonna collect all the toys at once. I'm gonna get everything that within arm's reach, because my ass ain't getting back up for a little while. All right. But do I regret anything? No, I don't. My point with all of that was just that, if you're going to make these choices, just be willing to accept the consequences that come down the road, because things probably will change. I can tell you that I would go ahead and put money on the fact that the things you want out of life are going to change down the road, and you are going to look back maybe and say, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe I should have rehabbed longer. Maybe I should have whatever. I wish my knees didn't hurt. That is very likely going to happen. But you're going to look back and think those things, and you don't want to ever do that and then like start regretting stuff, right? So so when you're moving forward with thinking about what is important and how I'm gonna just keep lifting until I can't do it anymore. Okay, well, when you can't do it anymore is different from person to person. Okay, do you mean when your arms fucking fall off? Do you mean when it starts hurting? You know what I mean? So very fine line between badass and stupid. You don't want to do anything that's just plain and simple. Come on now, you're not fucking 16 with like these juvenile ideas of what's badass anymore. Is this thing that you're doing over the line of stupid? Okay, you're going to want to take a little second longer to think about that before you decide to make the choice of, like, I've had 3 shoulder surgeries. Do I want to keep benching even in a shirt? Okay. And in some cases you're gonna make the decision that you want to keep doing that, and that's your choice to make, and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. But just be willing to accept the consequences later on down the road. So yeah, so in one hand, so when you've got people that are suggesting that you kind of lay off and back off of things, sometimes those people know what they're talking about, and they're not doing it just to hold you back, and they're not doing it just to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, and they're not just talking out their ass. They're people with experience in what you're doing yourself, and their opinions should be listened to, and should be strongly considered. Some people, maybe they don't know, but you're going to have people that support you that don't know what they're talking about either. You're going to have people that are fully behind you saying, yeah, keep doing that thing, that they're going to look back later and be like, ooh, that was a bad idea. Bad advice. So ultimately the decision is going to be yours, and you should take into account the advice and opinions of anybody that knows anything about what you're doing, but especially the ones that have kind of gone through a lot of what you've already gone through and are looking back and kind of giving their advice in your best interest. But for me, I can tell you right now that I'm personally not going to stop lifting heavy. I already do back off to the point of being a little more careful, and that's kind of my own personal compromise to it. I try to be as smart as I can be about the things that I decide to continue to do, which means maybe I can't do it every week. Maybe I have to warm up for an hour when I used to not warm up at all. But so I try to be more intelligent about it, because I'm also not saying those are things I should have done before either. Things change, and that's basically that's how I look at things. Like I said, things are gonna, what you want out of life is gonna change. Your body's gonna change. Your views on things are gonna change, and so you just need to keep adapting. Don't ever do anything and then look back later and regret it. Okay. So I make the choices I make, but I don't regret anything I've done, and I'll just keep continuing to, and so when I think about the things that I want to do, that's also taking into account the things I'm able to do. So um, always set your limits high and your expectations, and just make the best decision that you can based on your situation and what you're physically capable of doing, and just keep in mind that you don't ever want to do anything that you're going to look back and regret. So fine line between badass and just plain stupid, and maybe you walk that line, maybe you kind of bounce back and forth across that line. Just realize that that line is there, and don't, no regrets, no looking back and regretting anything. So if you have any questions, and please feel free. I love the comments that came, so and it spurred me to come back with a response. And I'm gonna have to set up some type of thing where I have either somebody on, like, not, I hate calling it a podcast, but like something where there can be like live debate. I know that I'm soon, and I'm not giving any hints away to the source of it, but I know I'm going to be on something similar here shortly. Someone asked me to come on, and don't even know what we're going to talk about yet, but it's going to be one of those live back and forth dialogue about something that maybe we don't both agree on, that kind of thing. That'll be cool. And so if anyone has comments that they want me to address or to post on these things, please do. If there's anything that you would like to hear me talk about, send me a message here. You can message me, put something in the comments of the video, or message me on Instagram, boss.bitch.x, or if we're friends on Facebook, you can send me a message there too. And always, Blackstone Labs, 20% off if you use the code boss.bitch.x. And I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.